Well, today we're taking a look at this Kershaw Speedform 2. This was given to me by a viewer to try out and check out, and I carried it, used it, and now I want to talk about it. Unfortunately, this knife model is discontinued. I believe these were available back in like 2011, 2012-ish. I remember seeing them on the forums, people talking about it, Kershaw with ELMAX. That's what makes this a little bit more of a unique model from Kershaw. So it did sport the ELMAX blade steel on here, which is extremely high performance. And again, you can see made in USA. Model number is 3550. Pretty unique knife in the fact that, yeah, it's Kershaw with ELMAX. Obviously, Kershaw, more affordable knives, definitely have some of the softer blade steels out there. As far as price, this knife was selling for just under 100 bucks, anywhere from like $90 to $100, which again is high for a Kershaw, in general, but not expensive for a folder sporting that ELMAX steel. So it was kind of a sleeper knife. I mean, a lot of people kind of passed this up. There wasn't a lot of talk about the Speedform 2, when it came out. I do remember seeing it like on the forums, someone saying, hey, this is kind of a sleeper knife. It's a lot of performance, under 100 bucks. Why isn't anyone talking about this, Aesthetically, it's not all that pleasing to me. It doesn't look like an extra sexy knife, Some knives I just look at and I think, wow, that has great lines, This one, not so much. This is 100% performance to me. This is function over form. It may not be the sexiest looking knife out there, but it is extremely capable. This is a liner lock. Right, the lockup on here is actually perfect. There is no up and down at all. There's just a smidge of side to side. Of course, I could get that out if I wanted to, but I do like the fact that this is extremely fast in opening. This is not an assisted opener, as you can see here. All right, it's completely manual, but it is super smooth in that pivot. All right, so it just goes shooting out. Something I don't necessarily like on here is that, step up or slanted thumb stud. You see it is dual thumb studs here, but they're just very small. It's very similar design to the Kershaw Blur, slanted thumb studs, but these I think are a little bit small in those. They're just kind of sharp and tiny and kind of awkward. I will say this, they are angled properly, okay? When you get your thumb down in there, it's kind of hard to miss them, and you do get a good enough grip to shoot that blade out. So, again, function, yes. Form, not so much. I don't know. It bothers me, and I really don't know why. It's kind of pointy and stuff, but you don't necessarily are manipulating that or touching it once the blade's open. In the closed position, it does exactly what it's supposed to. It's supposed to give you something to grab on there to open your blade, and it certainly does. Whether you're opening it slowly or, shooting the knife out, it works. It's just, I don't know, form, So another example of function over form. G10 scales on this. These are machined 3D scales, what they call them. So we basically have two different angles here. You can kind of see that line in the middle. So it slopes towards the back, slopes towards the front. They're extra smooth G10, which is nice. Overall design, it's pretty comfortable. I like it. It's not too specific in its shape, so ergonomics would be good for a lot of different hand sizes. As far as the liners, if I can get a zoom in here, they are heavily skeletonized towards the top. If you can see the cutouts there and there. Right towards the bottom there is a little slot cutout here on the locking side. But yeah, I mean heavily skeletonized, so it works with weight reduction, excuse me. This comes in at 3.2 ounces. It does feel very light considering it does have metal liners in there. I know a lot of these came out with dual tone or two-tone, so the flats were satin finish and the grinds, both the main grind as well as the swedge, was a bead blasted finish, just as the pocket clip. This model does have a bead blasted pocket clip, but it looks like it's satin on both the grinds and the flats. So I don't know how many of that version they did, but the ones I've seen before, again, this is a couple years ago, so my memory may not be all that crisp, but this is a little bit more unique in that sense. A lot of them that I remember did have the dual tone blades. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a functional knife. The one thing I really don't like about this is the pocket clip style. I know Kershaw uses this on a couple other models. Just aesthetically, to me, it looks cheap. There's nothing wrong with it. It does work fine, especially, there's a good tension on it because we have this, smooth G10 here. It's nice and easy to get in and out of the pocket. I had no problems carrying it all. It's not deep concealed at all. There's a lot of knife actually sticking out, but it's easy to grab. Of course, there's a lanyard hole on here if you wanted to add a lanyard. But I mean, just the look of it to me screams cheap. It's personal preference, really. That's all it is. Again, function over form. Functionality, perfect. Form, not so much. But if you do like those deep conceal clips, it's certainly far from deep conceal. Let's see what else. Our blade is 3.2 inches long, if I didn't already mention. Again, a nice long swedge on this blade, but of course not sharpened at all. One thing I did notice is two things. First of all, I mean, this is just a pet peeve of mine. It's a small detail. But you can see our actual grind does not go down, or our edge, I should say, does not go down to the very end of our blade grind. It's a pet peeve of mine, but you know, there's so many knife companies that do this. It's a pretty common practice. It's not completely out of the realm. I mean, you know, this is pushing $100, but again, that's for that blade steel. Of course, this one again is made in America, so that's what's going to up the cost a little bit. Not the end of the world, but it's a pet peeve to me. One thing I definitely don't like, though, that I did notice with this is that there's uneven grinds. If you look on this side, what I would consider the right side, you can see how wide this grind is, which is very nice. And as I flip it over, you can see how narrow it is towards the tip, in particular, on this side. So look at this side, right? See with the part that's reflecting, our very edge. On this side, much wider. And you could tell from a top view, if I can get this to, let me zoom in. I'll put my hand line here so you can kind of see that. Look at the very tip right here, looking down at it. You might be able to tell how it's wider on the right side than it is the left side. Again, you know, it's a minute detail most people wouldn't care about, wouldn't even notice. But, you know, when I carry knives and I use them and I'm getting ready for reviews, I look at all this kind of stuff. It's not affecting the performance so much. It's just, I don't know, personal pet peeve. To me, that's part of the fit and finish of a knife. By the way, this was configured for a tip down carry right side, and I did swap the clip because I just preferred it with this particular one. Something else I want to point out, though, is it is a extremely pointy tip, okay, which is very, very nice. Easy to penetrate, comes to a screaming point. So I did like that quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole bunch else to say about this one. Again, this is a perfect example of a knife that just works and works really well. And if you wanted to, you know, try out ELMAX and stay under $100, there's not a lot of options out there. And this was basically it. I don't know why Kershaw didn't, you know, stick with this one. I would have liked to see maybe one of the more popular knife models that sported ELMAX for a higher price. You know what I mean? Like the Blur. The Blur is a very popular knife. I don't know offhand if they made, I know they made an S30V version of the Blur. Yeah, if they made an ELMAX version, let me know down below. But it's just, it is a very interesting steel. Some people, it's kind of a love-hate relationship. Some people have really poor luck with sharpening it once it does get dull. But I haven't had any personal issues with it. But then again, you know, strapping your knives up and maintaining that edge, you don't have to worry about actually sharpening from dull. So I've never, that I can recall anyway, had to sharpen an ELMAX blade that was completely dulled out. They tend to last, so I don't deal with you know, dull ELMAX. But yeah, I mean, some knife makers just try to stay away from it. But yeah, I mean, it's just really interesting knife. Like I said, sadly it's discontinued. But if you happen to run across one of these, that's why I wanted to do a video on it, talking about it, giving my opinions. Couple misses here with the fit and finish, and again, you can see this one is off-centered as well. These are just little nitpicking things, but for around the $100 price tag, you start to look at stuff like that, you know? If this was 50 bucks, I'd say all day long. You can't beat it, $50 ELMAX, but it just doesn't exist. So you figure $90 Kershaw sporting some ELMAX, that's interesting, you know? But just, I mean, it's not a sexy knife, in my opinion, as far as the design goes, but it is all function. It's just, for me, my personal preference, less form than some other knives out there. But yeah, pretty damn cool either way. So kind of a little blast from the recent past. So yeah, I mean, if you want one of these things, you can look around, maybe find them on eBay. You know, obviously the forums, if you look at the, you know, for sale or trade section, maybe you can post a thread looking for it. I know guys, you know, have these out there. It's just a matter of whether they're willing to give them up or not. They're not particularly collectible, but definitely a little bit more rare to find right now because they are not currently in production. But there you go. There's the Kershaw Speedform 2. Again, huge thank you to the person who sent this. They sent it with a couple other knives as well. Like, you guys probably remember me doing an unboxing of these And I've carried that that Spyderco as well, if you remember that from that video. So I'll do a review on that in the future. So stay tuned for that video and many, many more. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have an awesome day. And if you have this knife, post down below. You know, what you think of yours. Do you carry it? Do you like it? Do you not like it? And even if you don't have this particular knife, if you have experience with ELMAX, I'm sure a lot of the viewers who don't will love to hear your personal opinions on it. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.